Khalid Ajmain.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi ta'ala wabarakatuh everyone. Welcome to Real Talk with Khalid Ajmain podcast. And for this episode today, we have a special guest on our far right, Sister Zizi, or what's your full name?
Nazhifah, Siti Nazhifah.
Siti Nazhifah.
Yeah.
She was our participant and then became our volunteer at Sout Ilaahi, a mother to and co-founder of Kopistan, and also an interior designer. MashaAllah. Welcome. And on my right is my wife, as usual, my co-partner in the podcast. So today we're going to discuss something different, something to do with what we have been doing for the past 15 years. Me and my wife, and we started around 2010, which is the Sacred Path of Love event. So before I go to more details on it, if someone were to ask you, I'm asking Ainun, what is Sacred Path of Love after 15 years? How would you describe Sacred Path of Love?
Sacred Path of Love is an event that combines both psychology and Islamic spirituality. That's the unique part, because I don't think many people are actually able to talk about those two together. So usually we have someone like Sheikh Abdul Aziz and Dr. Umar Mahmud. These two are quite regular at Sacred Path of Love over the years. So they are actually experts in this, and they are able to combine the two together so that people understand what they're going through. And that's in a nutshell what Sacred Path of Love is about. But I think it's important to put there that it actually is relevant to everyone, and it's not just about those with mental health struggles, but it's also things that affect everyone. We talk about things like
Social issues,
but I mean besides social issues, as well as family, parenting. Like last year we had parenting, and also things like overthinking. Like some of us overthink, burnout. So every one of us suffers from burnout and all that. So it's quite it's relevant to everyone as well.
Yeah, mashallah. So I think 15 years you've been doing it, and we know the ups and downs and the struggle. Do you see how it had contribute to the community in one way or another?
I think over the years, a lot of people benefited from it, and I think because the topic is in depth, and it discusses things that people find relevant to their lives, so it has benefited a lot of people over the years. I think there's many testimonials on that.
Yeah, and I want to ask Zizi. I think I still recall Zizi's first experience with Sacred Path of Love is I think around 2017, if I'm not wrong, in KL, right? Yeah, after that was 7 years. So what was your expectation, Zizi, before and after?
Before and after, I think prior to that event, I've never actually went overseas for an event. So it was my first time at Sacred Path of Love, and I've always wanted to attend one, because I saw you guys had the had that video, right, that you guys play about Sacred Path of Love, and when I watched the video, I recognized people inside, and I'm just like, hey, this is people from the scene, and immediately it got me intrigued to want to go, and at that year, I already started volunteering for a bit with Sout Ilaahi, and then we were invited to come also, and then I decided to, hey, why not just go for the event. I didn't have big expectations, but I always knew that this is something that Sacred Path of Love is something that is relevant to me, and I feel like I could benefit from it, but I didn't have much expectation. So when we went there, it was our first time, and I think the one that made me really, I would say, interested or like really intrigued is actually the questions, the Q&A. So when I came and I'm just like, wow, everyone is actually really struggling in their life with so many issues, that it made me feel, one, it made me feel humble, because maybe my struggles is not that intense as compared to someone else, but at the same time, it makes me feel like, hey, it's okay. It kind of like gives me hope, like it's okay. Everybody is going through the same journey in life, and they have their different kind of struggles. It kind of like opened up my eyes lah. That's what I felt the Sacred Path of Love did for me. My experience there. Yeah.
So how do you see it then? I mean, you said that lots of questions being asked, and you feel humble, and you realize like there's so much to learn. How do you see it now, from being a mother? Right? What does spirituality means to you? Because a lot of times, right, people always relate spirituality with zikir uni, majlis, zikir, you read kitab, then that's it. But they don't relate to like your daily activity, your work, your family, your children, even to the point your own personal time, your personal life, you know. So how does it benefit you now when you look into it? Yeah, you keep learning every year. I think for you maybe 8 years already. Masya-Allah. Dah lama kita kenal dia.
Inshallah, I didn't realize.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I think being a mother, going through, being a mother, and prior to that, volunteering with Sout Ilaahi and attending Sacred Path of Love, or volunteering for that, I think it has helped me a lot in a sense that it changes and switches my perspective on life before I actually became a mother. So ideals were already kind of set in a way that like I cannot have so many ideals where I used to have in the past. So becoming a mother, it has kind of like set the tone lah. So like I don't really have that much ideals, but at the same time, the struggle is that like when I become a mother, I became more aware of myself. In like, for example, like I'm whether or not I am patient enough. For example, when I am with my kids, so the daily struggle is always there, but because of the guidance that I get through Khidmah and all that, it kind of like made me more aware of my surroundings, aware of how I react to certain things, and made me have that reflection, like, hey, I cannot be this way, and I think that's very important lah, to have that perspective even before being a mother, so that when you become a mother, you go through these struggles, you kind of always have these conversations with yourself that there are certain things that you have to let go. There are certain things where you have to see that it's probably your personal, it's a reflection of yourself that you are projecting towards your kids. So it's a constant rectifying of the self, I feel, when I become a mother. So it's like a training ground. Yes. Yeah,
it's interesting because you said that, so it becomes like a journey also, right? So in a way, that's why it kind of reflects Sacred Path of Love. So how do we came out with Sacred Path of Love? Do you remember?
I think I remember we were discussing together about the name.
Yeah.
And we took some time.
I think there were quite a number of names we put on.
Yeah.
Seeking apa lagi, I can't remember lah, but I remember it was at our old home.
Yep.
And then you were putting down few names, and then you say okay. Then in the end we did Sacred Path. But why is significant then? Why is it Sacred Path of Love now after 15 years to you?
Yeah, I mean, I think we didn't really think about it. We were just thinking about a nice title at that time or something. So we were not focusing on the actual
nothing to do with Rumi.
But it's interesting that over the years, after I look at the whole thing, and how it evolved. Because when we first started, I think we were focusing more on Islamic spirituality, not so much on mental health, because that was the needs at that time. But over the years, it expands. So it sort of become more focused. So at that time, it was just Islamic spirituality. But over the years, after we saw so many people who are struggling come to Secret Path of Love, and I think the title itself is so fitting, because when people struggle, what they need to be reminded of is divine love and Allah's love, and that's what they need. So I felt that the title actually matches what we are about. You know, it's a secret path of love, and without love, you cannot do anything. So,
do you think you have achieved that what we call it, benchmark? Benchmark would not be the right word lah. Maybe the objective after 15 years. Do you think you had achieved it?
I think we do, but at the same time, I think that we can always do better and reach out more, because the purpose of Secret Path of Love is just, it's not something, it's once a year, so it's not something that is ongoing, but the purpose of it is actually to make people reflect and go on their own journey. So it's not like something that we expect like people a continuous journey with us just through Secret Path of Love, but we hope that through the event we can spark that either interest or make them reflect, something that helps them throughout their life, something for them to remember. Yeah, and I think the speakers, they manage to do this every year.
Yeah, see, coming to you back from from a different way of seeing Islamic spirituality. I asked you just now what your journey and so on, right? So if people were to ask you about Islamic spirituality, Sufism, Tasawwuf, how would you describe to them through relating to Sacred Path of Love?
How would I describe? I think I would describe Sacred Path of Love, or like Tasawwuf, as rectifying the self, knowing the self. Because sometimes we think that we know ourselves, but when we go through life, we go through the struggles, that's when we have that painful realization that actually we have this certain trait that we don't like about ourselves, and we have to work it out. And accepting that is fine, because that is your journey. Your flaws are your journey back to Allah. So I think that is, to me, Islamic spirituality, and what Tasawwuf is about understanding the self and rectifying the self, like daily.
I mean, you're talking about understanding the self, knowing the self, kan? For young people your age, you're still young, insyaAllah. Like, how do people perceive it then? Like, how many really actually want to know the self and understand the self? But I believe it's part of the growth lah, kan? Yeah. But in your own experience with your peers or with your circles, or any experience in any level lah, I would say. So how would they relate then to spiritual when knowing the self and understanding the self?
How would they relate? I think understanding the self only begins when you are struggling and you want to face, when they begin to realize that they want to face that struggle, and then they go through that struggle and understanding their flaws and accepting their flaws. That's the journey. That's only the beginning of the journey. At the moment, I feel like there are people who are struggling with it, even myself, diving deeper and digging deeper in ourselves and looking at ourselves with our flaws and accepting that, wow, this is me. It's not something that is easy, because everybody has these ideals, especially in this social media age where we there are many ideals that we set for ourselves, for our family, for our kids. So we are always surrounded by ideals. So to break that and to realize that there are certain times where we are just insignificant is something that is difficult for people to accept. That's why I feel people myself, I speak for myself and maybe people around me who has spoken to me. But then that's where it comes, when the struggle begins, when the problems in life begin. How they handle it, how they go through it is when it's the part where they either wanna go through with it and understand who they are, or they just sweep it under the carpet and then just like, no, I'm fine, and then they just go on with their life thinking that they're fine. Yeah.
So I mean, coming from Zizi, coming from the perspective, right? So do you receive like criticism in saying that, oh, this is not tasawwuf, secret power of love? At one time, so I heard people saying like, tasawwuf. People are saying secret power of love has run out from the Islamic tradition in a way. But then we realize like what you mentioned earlier, like say this is life and this is social issue, and tasawwuf or Sufism deals with social issues, like what Zizi said, like you need to know the self and you need to deal with the self, otherwise you are not able to see your problem or even overcome it. But most people don't see it, right? So what's your take then? Like macam orang start to criticize like, this one no more like tasawwuf already, no more like Sufism, this one is more like mental health, like what you said. Yeah,
I think that's a bit strange because actually Islamic spirituality is actually supposed to help you deal with whatever that you're going through. It's timeless, so it is relevant to a person. So it's not something like, okay, only certain people are supposed to benefit from tasawwuf. It doesn't work that way. So I feel that it is untrue that it diverges from Islamic spirituality. In fact, I think that it makes people understand that Islamic spirituality is relevant, because for some people, like, what they experience is that, okay, Islamic spirituality is only for tasawwuf itself is only for certain people who are higher in their ibadah, higher in status, but it's not. So it's relevant to everyone. So I feel that that is untrue. And the fact is that actually, if you go on the spiritual path, dealing with your mental state is actually part of tasawwuf, part of Sufism. So you have to deal with it. So you cannot say like, okay, I'm just going to handle my spiritual state, I'm just going to abandon my mental state or physical state. This
is what we call spiritual bypassing, kan?
Yeah. So people may think like, I mean, everybody has like struggle with some form of mental health issues. So the question is, do you put it aside and just focus on spirituality, or is it together,
But how you find that balance then through secret power of love?
I think the unique part is like, especially like Sheikh Abdul Aziz and Dr. Umar, they explain how spirituality comes in when it comes to mental health issues that you struggle with. So I think that's how they combine it. Like they're talking about, okay, how can a person like work on their depression or anxiety, and where does Islamic, like where does zikir and other stuff, where does it come in? And they explain that it's not separated,
It's interesting on that perspective. But then again, we know and we understand, which I started the podcast kan, I mentioned to you, so it's like, it's not Sufism or Islamic spirituality or tasawwuf. It's not just majlis zikir. It's more than that. But how would you care to elaborate from what you have learned from throughout 15 years, right? That Islamic traditions come hand in hand with mental health, right? What I'm trying to say is that zikir, salawat, read Quran, and then after that, like what Zizi said, knowing the self, understand the self, and then how do we go further then?
I think it's not separate. So like, if you separate it, like, okay, you just focus on talking about your past experiences, and then you don't have spirituality to back it up, then it's missing something. Because we always need to turn back to Allah. At the same time, you cannot just zikir, but then you don't reflect.
That's what I'm asking you. So it's a general thing also, kan? It's a reflection. So you need more than that also.
Yeah. So it's not one or the other, but it's like a holistic thing. So you need to do the reflection. You need to do even zikir has its role in the whole thing. So it comes together as one.
Going to Zizi again this time. Z, we, like what my wife said, kan, we always receive a very interesting feedback every year. Especially the first 6 years. We always receive something. That's why we started the Voice Out campaign also. Like abuse going on and so forth. And you mentioned about the need to know the self and understand the self. But people find it difficult, like what you said also, right? And especially young people. So how would you encourage them and relate to them that this is also a part of Sufism, a part of Tasawwuf? Mengenal diri. In Malay, we say mengenal diri. Kan? Actually, it sounds so nice in Malay. It's like mengenal diri. There's a book that I like when I first started learning Tasawwuf. And that book is Mengenal Allah, Mengenal Diri. Right? So, getting back to my question to you, so how would you, I don't know how you want to put it, but you yourself, using your own personal experience in your struggle, how would you advise, or how would you like to tell them, especially the millennials generations, correct? Am I say millennial generation? The millennials, no need generation, right? The millennials or the Gen Z, right? That this is something that they should look into, right? How would you try to describe through your own journey?
I think number one is when you are younger, you are somebody who have more himmah, aspirations. So you have more energy, and you gotta, before anything hits you hard, you gotta learn about it before anything were to happen, so that you understand, you set your perspective right first. And then when you go through life, you have the struggles, at least you have that clearer perspective on life, that whatever happens, Allah has ordained it to happen, and that we are not the one in control. For example, I'm just giving some examples.
That is a good example.
Yeah, that we are not in control. So we tend to let go of things. I know it is especially a struggle now in the social media age, with everything presented on social media is just glossy and nice and ideal, which is not the reality, you see. That's why people struggle with it a lot. Even for myself, I struggle with it a lot. But I feel like when you are younger, it's good that you understand this perspective, so that when you go further into life, you keep drilling yourself. It prepares you for the training, you know. And I think for me, my advice would be, do not be like recently. I wrote something. I said, do not be in awe of your achievements or yourself, but instead be in awe of the journey you're in, because that is what Allah has planned and catered for you, and that's your unique journey to Him. So if you want to know Allah, then you have to somehow have that clear perspective and then go through it and always keep remembering that this is the journey that Allah puts you in. So then when you go through it, you know that there will always be that wisdom, and you will keep striving for it, because you understand that this is your conversation with Allah. This journey is you and Allah, and for you to understand your life through His path for you. So for me, it's like when you're younger, you have that aspiration, you have that vigor and enthusiasm. Just grabs this knowledge and understanding before you, at least you have these tools before you go into life, and then you have all these setbacks here and there, and then you just realize that, oh, okay, this is difficult, but I have this understanding. Although I'm struggling with it, I at least have this understanding. I go through with it because I know that everything belongs to Allah, and that Allah wants the best for me. So you go through it, even though you are struggling.
Yeah, because I still remember, right, some people along the years also, as Singaporeans, Singaporean mindset, and we always look for a definite outcome. Macam, oh, I'm not healing. Oh, I'm not getting better. So, what are they supposed to get when they attend Sacred Path of Love?
I think a lot of people want, like, okay, I do A, then I will get B, but it doesn't work that way. And also, it's this generation of everything having to be fast. So,
like she said, for social media.
Yeah, so everything has to be fast, especially in Singapore. Like we are moving at such a fast pace.
Yes.
So we want everything to happen instant. But on the spiritual path, actually, it is a long journey. It's a journey of a lifetime. So you need to be prepared for it to be a long journey, and it's a journey. Like Shimahi said, enjoy the journey.
Yeah, I think it's probably apa tahu. It's also because of our Singaporean mindset lah. We were educated or nurtured since young, like how we overcome our problem means we have done it. That means I don't want to think about my stress. I don't want to think about like why I had to deal with this. That means I'm something wrong with me. I just want to overcome it. That means like what Zizi said. Oh, you look at yourself and like, oh, I'm good. I'm this. I'm that.
Yeah, in a way, it's like that. Like I feel like it's also an achievement. Like, okay, if I manage to overcome my struggle, it's an achievement. And I always say, like, even in this social media age, like if we see, right, even when we talk about mental health, like, okay, people like a story where, okay, this person overcome their depression or anxiety, but it doesn't necessarily work that way, because with issues in life, sometimes we have different states. We go through different states. Sometimes we feel okay, and sometimes we fall back. And the important thing is to know that it's okay to have that. It's okay to fall back, and it is going to happen, because we are humans. We are meant to know that we are weak, and this is a sign that we are weak, and Allah is the one who gives strength. So that is an important part. So even for Sacred Path of Love, as you said, it's not a magic bullet. It's not something, okay, you go there and then after that, you know what to do in life. You get the answers to your questions. It's not like that. So that's not what we are expecting. But it is something that we hope make people ponder on their life and their struggles, and to understand, like, okay, what is the reality of this world.
I think Sheikh Abdul Aziz also ever in the workshop lah. Not last year. I think it was 2014. How we travel back, where he give like two scenario to the participant. You remember? Then okay, now who you think this is? Who you think? I think he's trying to make people understand how people react, how people see things in life, and how people perceive things in life. You know what I mean? And this is something that in Singapore, is very difficult for us to understand, right? And we want just like I read Rumi, I read Syamat Tijani book, then this how it's supposed to be, the way how it is. But then even if you read the story of all the Muslim saints, they all struggle. It's a journey, Some even until they die, they are struggling with life, with betrayal, with slander, right? And yet we today feel like, I think it's also partly because it becomes like the story of rags to riches. Macam once upon a time I was very poor, and then now I'm a millionaire, so I did it. So if I did it, you can do it, right? And also another perspective is also like people do not want to look deeper into the problems that they're facing. That means the root of the problem. And they keep thinking like, the problem is not me. The problem is the people who doing this to me. And it's such a, I think when I look back into it again, it's quite a scary thing to reflect. Macam you don't see your fault, but you see other people's fault, and you keep blaming people. Kan? So fast forward to in this podcast interview, kan, it also make me realize like tasawuf or Sufism has a unique way of knowing your own journey to Allah through your own deficiency. Kan? But at the same time, it's also only a matter of whether you want to deal with it or not. But why is it that for some people it's difficult? I ask you, Ainun, because I know people will say, it's your ego, it's your nerves. But then again, sometimes people still need time, need space, isn't it? But your own view on this?
I think everyone struggle with dealing with their true selves. What all their deficiencies. I think is humans usually they have a certain perception of who they are, and if they find out that okay, I'm not this person that I thought I am, then it is difficult for them to accept. And so we build this perception of who we are. And that's one thing. But another thing is also like, even people who underwent trauma or bad experiences in the past, sometimes it's easier, I mean especially when, for children, is a preservation technique for you to just forget the whole thing and forget the whole incident. So at that time, as a child, probably is protecting them from having to deal with it, and they are not able to deal with it. And so when you are older, sometimes your tendency tend to be there. Like whenever there's a problem, you kind of just want to escape. But as an adult, and for you to grow, you actually need to face it. It's not about talking about your past as much as, accepting that it happened. So the first step is always like accepting whatever happened in your past. And for you to accept, that is the difficult part for a lot of people. And they need to be able to talk about it, accept it, and accept how our experiences in the past affect us today. How does it affect us today? And that is the thing that people need to work on, like so that they don't get affected by what happened in the past. Like, people are affected. Like some people, if their parents told them that they're stupid when they're young, then when they're old, they may develop like low self-esteem, and it will translate to how they deal with people. So whenever they're around people, maybe they are more sensitive when people say things to them that may not be saying like they are stupid, but then what they heard is like, oh, you're saying I'm stupid, that kind of thing. So these are things that people need to deal with.
But how do they deal with it then? I'm sticking with you.
They need to be, I mean, it takes a bit of courage. Like, okay, I think this is something I need to deal with, and not run away. Because people who run away, eventually it will catch up with them. Eventually they will break down. There's no running away in the sense. So they will eventually have to deal with it. But I think that it takes courage, and for you to do a lot of reflection on yourself. That's important. And I think in a way, like zikir, right? You know, the daily litanies that you read, it helps in a way that, you know, it gives you that push, like, okay, that strength to actually be brave enough to face yourself.
But Z, how about you, Z? I mean, you know, millennials or Gen Z, I always met them, like, they kind of easily give up on spiritual power or even spirituality, because look what you said lah, looking into social media and then looking into yourself, and what my wife just mentioned about dealing with the self and so on, it takes maybe years, right? So what is that coping mechanism that you think that young people should look at? I felt that, of course, seeking more knowledge, having more exposure, but people are not, sorry to say lah, they are not like you are more open, you are very, I would say, have courage to learn more, to understand new knowledge, right? So, you looking at the young people, what do you think that they should do in order for them to realize that this is spirituality? I mean, you saying just now macam understanding the self, knowing the self, kan? Yeah. You your own self, you your own friends, that you look at them and you look at yourselves.
I think for me, I feel like for the younger generation, they easily get burnout, right? With whatever life that's happening, and then, like, you know, to undergo, you know, getting the knowledge and then going through it, going through yourself, and with the zikirs and all that, they can easily get burnout when they don't have the support. So I feel like for younger people, the most important thing is to get good companions, good people, surrounded by good people that push you. Because you can't do it on your own, especially if you want to change or you want to go through this Islamic spirituality, and then you want to go through, you know, the zikr, and you want to understand yourself. You can't go by yourself. You can't. And you can't mix with other friends who don't have the same aspirations as you, because you will just fall. What I personally feel like, I'm speaking for myself, for me, like, speaking to myself when I was like maybe 6 years ago, my friends around me, not all of them have the same aspirations as me. But if you want to change, you have to ask yourself, be real. Do you really want to know God? Like, what is your purpose in life? Is this really what you want? Because if you want, then you have to go for it. If not, then if you get tired from it, then there's no sincerity in it, and there's, like, you have to ask yourself again, is that really what you want? So if that's the case, you want to know God and you want to be on this journey, then realize that it is difficult. It is difficult. It's not like when you open a room, you read the poetry and it's just nice, it makes you feel good, and then that's it. You close and you know everything. No, it's gonna be difficult. So you have to surround yourself with people who has undergone the spiritual path. They know, they understand, they can help you, they can push you, support you spiritually and also mentally. I think that's the most important thing now, because you need support. Yeah.
I mean, it's interesting Zizi mentioned that. Actually, even people at our age also have that lah. Like, because again, it goes back to Singapore mentality, Singaporean way of looking at it. But we know one thing about Singapore law that I realised after 15 years, not now that I realised, but along the years, right? I don't know about you, both of you, but I realised this is like spiritual path or tariqah they call it, or Sufi path, is more like a personal journey and personal experience with Allah Subhanahu Wa Taala. Although you may be on a certain path, right, with certain sheikh. Do you agree, Ainun? It's more like a personal journey, a personal travelling with Allah Subhanahu Wa Taala.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that is what it is about. Like
Because I just just to not to cut you off, but just to say that because people punya perception kan, like tariqah or Sufi path is like, oh, I mean the big group, and the bigger the group, the better we are. You know what I mean? The stronger we are, and then we are this, we are that. But actually, when you face alone at home, or when you go through divorce ke, or you go to bankruptcy ke, or betrayal kan, suddenly you realize like it is the opposite of what you think it is kan. So actually Syekh Abdul Aziz brought that up. It's actually very interesting because he said you need to make tariqah as your personal journey. That means keep it in your heart, and you don't have to show people, isn't it? But at the same time, of course lah, like what Zizi said, you need those who have the experience, and those, and remind me of Syekh Ibrahim Nas. Syekh Ibrahim Nas said that. He said be among not said what he said, respect the elderly in whatever circles you are in, because they may be able to push you a bit with their wisdom and whatever they go through. Because sometimes the people who had the downfall are the one that is able to give you that wisdom in spiritual power, even in business also, right? Yeah, so sorry I cut you off, but that's what I'm trying to do. Yeah,
I think there's two parts. Like, okay, there's an importance in having companions and having people who understand you.
Yeah,
That's important on one end, but on the other end, Allah will put you in a way where nobody can help you. So that is the other side that you must be willing to face, where there's nobody else, not even your spouse, not even your parents,
your children, your friends.
nobody can help you. So that is meant to be what the spiritual path is about, for you to learn that actually in reality there's no one but Allah. So that is so there's two sides of it lah. As I said, there's importance of companionship, because your companions can affect your spiritual state. But at the same time, you must remember that it is, as you said, a spiritual journey is actually it's alone with the alone. So it's a lonely journey in a sense.
Arabi.
Yeah. So that's the two parts of it lah.
Well, I guess, I mean, so that people don't misunderstand this. I mean, in the Jemaah, it's a Jemaah thing, you know, you respect everyone. But I realised also from Syekh Abdul Aziz Frederick saying is that, or even if you look at it like Syekh Ibrahim Nas said, right, it's like, even your relationship with those people, your Jemaah, is for Allah. It's nothing else, it's for Allah. That means you treat someone well, and you, even if you have this agreement or whatever, it's for Allah. It's like, okay, everybody has their view and all that, you know. So this is where sometimes we forgotten about it, that Allah send them to you and Allah will take them away from you. And that's the difficult part as Singaporean kan. Miss Ainun, Madam Ainun. Right.
Yeah, I guess
I mean, someone like who is sick all the time, what do you think? You cannot attend zikir, and Zizi also now like 2 children, 2 boys running around, then like macam mana nak pergi zikir ni, you know. So what will you reconcile on it?
I think that everybody have their stages in life. So there's a stage where you are able to, you know, attend zikir, and you have the energy, and then you have the time. So Allah puts you there in that state, and then you go to another state. Maybe the other state is for some reason you cannot go. You have maybe you got married and you have kids, and you know, you have you don't have as much time. You're dealing with your kids, or else if you're sick and then you're unable to come and you need to deal with, or even if you have work. So that is another state that God put you in. So the important part is to know that no matter what happens, it is what Allah has planned for you. And it's not to say like, people tend to think like, okay, I miss the time where, I feel so spiritual, I can attend the majlis or I can go to the mosque, especially in Ramadan, like people are competing, to do ibadah. So like you say like you miss those times, but how do you know which state is better for you? You think like that state is better, but you don't know, you do not know.
That's why in Sufism they say like, don't worship your state.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I mean this is something like mind-boggling or mind-blowing. What's the right word, Hanis? Mind-boggling or mind-blowing? Mind-boggling. Yeah, but then again, it's like, I mean, it's actually not easy lah. Zizi, I'm coming to you again as a mother of two now. How old are you? I don't want to say you are. This podcast tak boleh sensitive, but still young lah. You see at her, she's so young. Mother of two look like 18 years old. Alhamdulillah. But how do you maintain the istiqamah? The istiqamah not necessarily like what my wife said lah. Macam, you have to be the same. In fact, me and my wife, we had a very unique and interesting experience at Madinah Bay that changed our life. Because one of the year, the second last year lah, before we went for the last year, that is 2017, 2016, and that's where we know you. I had a near-death experience and at that moment when I went to the Madinah Bay, the first 3 days is Ramadan, right? Was fully charged, like, wow, you see mahi and you doing zikir, and suddenly I kena the dehydration and then the diabetes kick in, and I nearly had that death experience. I was spending the time at Shemai home, the room with her. I think both of us were very, very sick. I think like maybe 10 days ada. Then I thought to myself, one time I was listening that they were reading the Nazhifah. Excuse me. They were reading Nazhifah at the masjid, and I said, alamak, I pay so much. Then I come here, just sit here like I wasted lah. But then after that I istighfar lah. I said, okay lah, I can still do Nazhifah with my wife. And we did at the living room together, both of us. But they were very nice, Shemai, as usual lah, hospitality, generosity of Shemai, give food, medicine, everything. But then after that, when we left, it's like an opening for me macam I realised like, Abah just make me feel his presence everywhere lah. Like you realise like you were never deprived lah. And it's the same as you are about to die. Where you are, you can be anywhere, right? And the most important thing is that you have a sound heart. But I think the biggest problem for today's generation of all walks of life, it's not only the Gen Z or millennial, it's also because social media, right? And you keep looking macam, I wish I have that majlis, like what she said and Ainun said, I wish I had the mosque, I wish I have this. But how you preserve it with your two kids, your two homies, right? And did you learn that also through your own? I mean, I know you learn through your own spiritual way, and also did Sacred Path of Love help you to develop such spiritual resilience?
Yeah. So for myself, I feel like that spiritual resilience comes with the many struggles and experience that I faced, that I realized that I cannot fall into hopelessness. I think that's the danger when we fall into hopelessness. When we feel like Allah deprives us of things, He will never deprive us. It is how we see things that we are actually depriving ourselves from seeing what God is giving us. So for me, I'm being honest, I was like that. Like like why now I can't go majlis zikir, or like, you know, sometimes I have that feeling of I'm feeling deprived. But as days goes by, or like when I go through the journey, I realize that Allah don't put you in certain places, but He still teaches you something through your kids. Like maybe you don't go majlis zikir and you don't always, you know, get to do all your khatam everything, or, you know, like do your zikir regularly or consistently, but then Allah teaches you in other forms. Like for myself, I realized that dealing with my kids is my tarbiyah. You know, so it's unique. Like that's what I mean. You don't be in awe of your achievements, like your zikirs, or like the amount of majlis you go through, or even like you were saying, like the jama'ah that you are spending time with. You don't see that. You see it more like Allah is always never gonna deprive you of anything. And even when you sometimes you fall into that perception, like, oh my God, I feel so like I'm not good enough, or, you know, this kind of negative feeling, you push yourself to think like, no, Allah will teach me something. Just keep reminding yourself that Allah will teach me. I think for myself, I feel that that's something that I hold on to, so that I will keep going. Because that's important, because at the end of the day, I think another one thing that keeps me going is also, I don't know if it's a bit morbid, but I think it's necessary that we think of death. When I go through, if I keep clinging on to all these things that make me feel like I'm a better person, or a better state, in a better state, or, you know, whatnot, then when death comes, you are not able to let go. So I think being a mother has taught me a lot about letting go, like about my kids. I need to let go of certain ideals, like a lot about letting go. And it's still a journey for me, but death is also part of that motivation for me. Although I think people might think like, oh, that's quite morbid, but I think it's reality. We are all gonna die, and like when you face death, are you able to let go of things? That's very important. So we need to strive towards that lah. Even though we are struggling so hard to do it, but we just hope that inshallah, like through that struggle, when death comes, we are able to let go. Yeah.
How do we nurture that, Ainun? That persistence in having good opinion of Allah. That is good opinion of Allah. And I think people don't understand that part of Sufism is also having good opinion of Allah. Correct or not?
I think a lot of the times when things happen, especially very extreme things, it's hard for us to actually understand why it happens. We just cannot find a reason. Like, why cannot it be something else, you know? Like war. Why does war happen? So this kind of thing is difficult to deal with. But for someone who has faith, then they will have a good opinion of Allah. Allah knows better. Allah knows the wisdom behind everything that happens. And that is part of faith. Like for you, even if you don't understand something, for you to have that. And this only happens if you build your relationship with Allah. For you to reflect on your own journey, like what do I think of Allah? What is my opinion of Allah?
Yeah.
What do I think Allah is? Like some people have this perception, okay, Allah is someone is like one to be feared. Then that is their perception. But that is that really what it is? And we need to ask ourselves, what is our perception of Allah?
Yeah, and also sometimes people feel like I went through this because Allah is punishing me.
Yeah. So it affects your perception of what goes on in your life. Like if you keep thinking like Allah is the punisher, then you think like, okay, Allah is punishing me. But is that truly what it is, or is there something else as well? Because with everything there is mercy. With everything that happens in our life, there is Allah's mercy. You know, Ar-Rahman, Ar-Rahim. So that is one of the attributes of Allah that is seen in everything.
I think that's the biggest struggle for us today. Even for me, when I first started tarbiyah lah kan, before that, like the Jalal and Jamal of Allah. I think sacred power of love, we address this. Remember? Like, Allah's love means He breaks your heart too.
Yes.
Right. Allah's love means He take away the people that you love. And Allah's love means He make you empty. Right. So this is one of the uniqueness of where people don't understand. This is what Sufism is about also.
Yeah, I think interestingly, like there was someone who commented who was not happy about our name, Sacred Path of Love, because they say like, you know, life is not just about love, but they're not understanding that
Divine love.
Yeah, but at the end of it, you still need love lah.
Oh, no, but the whole thing, like what I mentioned yesterday about your event, the journey of the heart, where when you mentioned about divine love, where I put on my IG story, I said that divine love is also where Allah gives you something that you don't like.
Yeah.
Because He loves you.
Yep.
That means He knows you better than even you know yourself.
Yeah.
But the thing is, the difficult part is that the nafs still feel like I deserve something better. Right? So this is where I think the sacred part of love had been trying to convey and to nurture. Because people keep saying apa tau, like, oh, at the end of the day Allah give you better than what He take away from you. But then that better is like something you feel like have to make you significant, not make you be a slave to Him. Yeah. So I just want to, before we end and all that, I just coming into another perspective, another spectrum of it. Like people say, okay, spiritual means like, okay, you solat, you read Quran, you zikir, kan? And then you think good of Allah, kan? So what is it that different between this and also Sufism then? Because some people argue like, oh, we don't need this. We already understand what is spiritual in Islam. What would you say?
I think you need to. I think spirituality is like you need to really go deep into what, like who you are.
I mean, that's what you mentioned lah.
Yeah. So it's not just about, all your ibadah. Okay, people think that, okay, this ibadah is what takes me to Allah. But that is not necessarily true, because your ibadah can be tainted by your own arrogance, especially arrogance, and also whatever defects that you have. So what you need is to work on all these defects that you have. And we have it. I mean, all of us will have certain aspects of it. Like we have envy, we have arrogance in us. So these kind of things are things that you need to work on. And that is what the spiritual path or tasawwuf is about. To work on all these defects. That is not sin. Because doing ibadah is maybe easy, but to work on yourself is the hard part. So that is what I felt like Sufism is about. And you need to work on. And for you to understand who you are, and in reality, people tend to say, even like, people say like, La hawla wa la quwwata illa billah. But then they feel like they have the strength. But then they say that it's just something that they say. It's not something that they internalize and understand in reality.
Yeah, how about you, Z? Because now, this is beautiful lah. I mean, seriously, that people don't think that work on themselves. And I remember when I look into all the wali Allah, right? One thing I realized, they are always trying to improve their heart and work on their nafs. That means that they are not satisfied, not because of their ibadah, no. They are more worried whether it's sincere or not, ikhlas or not, whether they are righteous or not, whether it's accepted by Allah or not. So there's a beauty in it, kan? Like last year we had Sheikh Abdul Aziz talk about fear and hope, and I think this is where that people aren't able to understand unless and until they work on themselves, right? But today you mentioned also about social media effect and all that, and so also now become like the self-help thing, right? And looking at it like what Allah wants from me is better than what I want. How you deal with that? Because some people, like what I mentioned just now kan, macam, oh Allah takes away something, He give better. So better means I am better, I am significant. How you look at it in that perspective?
In that, how would I look at it? For me, I personally see it as telling myself that I don't know anything. I think that's the very first thing, that you don't know anything. You think that that particular event or that particular thing is better for you, but in actual fact, Allah knows you best, better. He created you. He knows you in and out, and He has planned for you something. Not specifically when you see your perception, you see the thing, it's something that is good for you, makes you feel good, but it is something that maybe the downfall was a way for you to know Him, in a sense that it makes you more sincere, more humble. It breaks that barrier, mental barrier of you seeing things as how you used to see things. It changes your perspective lah. So for me, I feel like whatever that is in this dunya, you think, because we live in this social media life where everything is just like you wanna have a cure of something, you can just Google, right? Or like if you want tomorrow you wanna eat like curry, you can just like TikTok the recipe, you can make curry. So everything is so instant that it becomes so difficult for people to understand that the journey to Allah is never instant, and it's till you're there, and that you don't know yourself, and that sometimes Allah will give you things that you really don't like, but when you come out of it, you realize that, hey, actually it's really the best for me. And because you came out of it and you understand the wisdom behind it, when you go through struggles again, you know that Allah will have that wisdom. So then you go through with it, knowing that He will have something to teach you. Or sometimes, for now, like last time it was that, right? Like you go through and then you know that there will be wisdom. But right now I'm trying to do, like, going through the struggle, I try to still see His wisdom through that struggle, like hand in hand, you know. So I think that's very important for all of us, because we have to break that whole mentality of this cause and effect. Like, you know, like this happened, therefore this needs to happen, because in the reality that is not how Allah works.
That's why I was saying that Singaporeans, we have this mindset whereby 1 + 1 must equal 2, A, B, C kan. So that's why it's difficult for us to think out of the box lah. Right. So I know, you know, we were surprised actually in the early days of Sacred Path of Love that many people from different walks of life came, attended, even those who had left Islam, even the non-Muslim, right? And you can see that people are yearning for Allah and searching for Allah, and that's the uniqueness about having Sufism in it, isn't it? It goes deep into you, trying to soul searching, or you just had a soul searching, right? And what do you think about it lah? Like, so we shouldn't look down on people, isn't it? Whether they have tattoos or not, whether they left Islam, or like what I mean, it's interesting lah. When Sheikh Abdul Aziz ever said in one of the Q&A, where he said that people didn't leave Islam, it's just that they are angry, right? So in a nutshell, what you say about Sacred Path of Love itself for all walks of life?
Yeah, I think it's the interesting part is it's relevant for people of all ages as well, people from all backgrounds, and we had that in the past years. That's why one of the articles on Berita Harian was like, from what, makcik to
skinhead, from makcik to skinhead.
Yeah. So that actually explains the whole Sacred Path of Love. Actually, there's a very kind of people who come, and that's interesting because actually the spiritual journey I mean, everybody has their own spiritual journey, so it is relevant to everybody. And the things that we go through are actually quite common. You know, we tend to talk about generation to generation, like or people, this kind of people or that kind of people. But actually, we have a common factor, and that common factor is the spiritual journey to Allah. So that's why I felt that maybe that is what interests people when they come to Sacred Path of Love, to find out more about their own journey and how their struggles come into the picture, and to learn more about it.
Yeah, it's interesting. I mean, Z, coming to you, right? You, I guess, talking about different walks of life, okay, and you are also one of them. And you know us through Arwah Hafiz, and your caravan, your group of friends itself. So it's interesting to look at how different walks of life came to know Allah through themselves. I mean, knowing themselves, right? And how is it that you look into that sacred path? Do you see the reconciliation itself between your own journey and the sacred path of love itself, the event?
Yeah, for sure. I feel like Sacred Path of Love was the catalyst for my journey. Like during Sacred Path of Love, when I first attended it, it kind of like what Ainun said, it made me have that reflection, and then I continued on with that, whatever that I've taken away from that event, from Sacred Path of Love, and then I applied it to life, and that becomes like a tool for me that I always take out, and like it's like a tool to keep remembering that, okay, you have to go through this life a certain way, or just go through. Basically, it's a catalyst for me lah. And then volunteering through the event and meeting all the different walks of life, the different people, and then you just realize that everybody is just really searching for God. It's just that we all have our different lives, our different backgrounds, but like Ainun said, we have that common goal. We are in search of the divine, but some don't even know that they are in search of the divine love. But we are all essential, like human beings are in search for God, and that's when I realized like it comes in full circle when I volunteer, and then I meet these people, and their stories help me, like the volunteer stories help me. So in a sense, it helped me in a sense that I realized that I'm not alone now in this journey, that everybody is going through the same struggle. It's just that our struggles are different, and some of the volunteers, their perspective has also helped me change my perspective to see life. So that's just like a way, like a full circle, like attending it, and then participating in it, and then volunteering for it, meeting the scholars, and all these things are just a learning experiences for me, and also like an experience that I managed to harness certain tools for myself and to help me change how I see things in life. Yeah.
So Ainun, any words you like to say to the listener and the viewer about Sacred Path of Love before we end?
I think it is kind of special. I mean, this year is the 15 years of Sacred Path of Love, and I think the special part of Sacred Path of Love is not just the event itself, but also the people that come together. Because I know many of the volunteers and their personal struggles, and I realized that each one of them actually have a lot of struggles, but I am very I admire them that even though they are struggling, they come to volunteer. Like some of the volunteers, in fact, one of the volunteers we know, like she was having surgery, then she wanted to volunteer the day before. So I was thinking, wow, these are the people who really have the heart, and they themselves are going through health struggles. Some are having financial struggles. Some are having whatever struggles that they have, you know. And even though their lives, they have problems in their lives, they still want to khidmah. And so we learn from them. And in fact, even the speakers themselves, they go through a lot of challenges. So actually, the common theme actually for Sacred Path of Love is that people are just struggling, you know, and they are coming together. People who are struggling who are coming together, not just the attendees but also the volunteers and the speakers. So all of us are actually struggling and we are coming together, and that's the unique part about Sacred Path of Love. And even though we do not know of each other's struggles, I think inside us we can feel it, and that's why Sacred Path of Love is so special. And I feel that there is barakah in it because of it. Because even though we are struggling, all of us are trying, you know.
InsyaAllah. Is there any last words to the people out there on Sacred Path of Love?
On the Sacred Path of Love, to me, I feel like there's an opportunity, and if you really had that intention to want to attend to one of the Sacred Path of Love, just do it. Like, don't hinder yourself from attending, because you would never know what you may benefit from it. Even if you think that you did not benefit from it, the barakah from that event itself will help you in some ways in the future in life, when you are going through any struggles. So I think,
InsyaAllah. Thank you to both of you. So like what Zizi said, join us this year Sacred Path of Love on 24th and 25th August. The first day is online, and the second day is a Darus with Sheikh Abdul Aziz on Hikam of Sheikh Ibn Ta'ala. So make dua for us, join us, book the date earlier. Okay, so be with us and join this caravan, insyaAllah. So see all of you again in the next podcast. May Allah accept our doa and also our ibadah. Take care. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Thank you to both of you. Thank you to everyone.